Hey everybody, welcome to All Things Knit and Stitches. I'm Nicole, and in today's video we're going to talk all about temperature stitching. So before we jump into all that, I just want to say thank you for stopping by my channel. I really appreciate it. If you would like, subscribe and leave a comment. This is where I share all of the crafty stuff I'm getting up to and anything else. You can also find me on allthingsknit.com, where I blog about all of my knitting patterns and everything else I'm getting up to, as well as Ravelry and Etsy as All Things Knit, and that's where I sell my knitting patterns and some cross stitch, as well as cross stitch and knitting accessories. You can also follow me on Instagram and Pinterest as All Things Knit. So what is temperature stitching? So basically temperature stitching is when you assign a temperature key. So you would have a color based on a temperature range for your area. So for example, this is mine from 2023. And so I just assigned a color for 100 and above, 90s, 80s, 70s, and so on. So you would knit a row or two or crochet a row or two based on the temperature for that day. You can use the high, the low, or the average temperature. And I'm gonna pop in a picture of a traditionally knit or crocheted blanket, and you can see that people use like a wide range of colors to represent hot to cold. So what I did for 2023 is I decided to use a more muted palette. As you can see, I do have a couple of pops of color, especially for, I have this hot pink for 100 and above, but I use kind of like a more muted palette that kind of goes with my aesthetic. And you can use as many colors or as few colors as you want to. You can have it 5-degree increments, 10-degree increments, whatever you guys want to do. It's a very flexible project, and it's a year-long project. So yeah, it's pretty cool to kind of document the year wherever it's at. So what I decided to do for 2023 is, instead of doing a couple rows every day, I took the average of a week and I knit a 6-row stripe that represented the average for that week. So this is the blanket that I knit for 2023. And so I use a chevron pattern, which I will have all the details for this linked below. I'll have a blog post about all of what I did, all about the pattern and how you can modify it. It's just a really simple 2-row repeat pattern. You increase right here, and then you do a double decrease here, and you just continue to do that across for as wide as you want. And like I said, I'll have all the details on my blog. So we started off in January, and this is 60s, and then we had a couple weeks of 40s. This right here is 50s, and then this is 70s, 60s, a big chunk of 70s, 60s. This is 80s. So 80s, 70s, 80s, and then this right here is 90s. This hot pink is over 100. We had another week of 90s, and then I think this is 6 or 8 weeks of solid average over 100 degrees. Another week of 90s, and then 100s, and then it got back down to the 80s, 90s, and then we finished up the year in the 50s. So like I said, this right here represents 1 week. So this is 6 rows. So I just kind of figured out the math of how long I wanted the blanket and how wide. And that was my cast on. And then I figured out that each week I wanted it to be 6 rows. And I was kind of aiming for 45 by 60. And I'll have all the details of the exact measurements on the blog post. I don't have that written down right now, but all of that will be online. So I just thought that it was a really cool idea just to do the average of the week, and it still represents a good range of like changes and colors. So like I said, if you want to follow along and do what I did, you can find that all on my blog post. So another thing, so you kind of have to really look at where you live and what your temperature range is. So for example, on mine, I had a color for 20 and below, 30, 40. And I never used the um, the bottom two colors. So I think I used 41. Well, we had 2 weeks of 40s at the beginning of the year, and then I never used it again. So I never needed the 30s or the 20s. So I took that into account when I was planning my 2024 blanket, and I don't have a color assigned for that. I just have 30s and below. So any week that is average 30 or below will just be one color. And but where you live, you might not need a color that represents 100 because you may never even get to that. So you just kind of have to like think about where you live and base your temperature chart on that. You can find your temperatures online. Like there's lots of different places, but I use Weather Underground, and I will put the website link below. And it's really great because you can use, although they'll show you like daily, weekly, and monthly history. And you can also go back and do previous years. So another tip that I have is that you can knit a temperature blanket that represents any year you would like. So you can knit one for the year that you're born. You can knit one for the year you got married. You could do it for somebody's anniversary for them. I'm going to knit one for my son's, the year he was born. And so yeah, you can do it to represent any year you would like to document. We've lived in a whole bunch of places all over the country, so it'd be kind of cool to have one. They were never on my radar until a couple years ago, but it'd be really cool to represent like a year out of every place that we lived to kind of see how they were different. And I may get to that one of these days, but yeah, it's just a really cool project that is like a year-long thing, and you kind of have this very unique to you blanket at the end of the year that you look back, years to come. So, and like, I'll be able to see like, oh wow, this was like a really, really hot summer in Texas. So it's pretty cool. So anyway, so like I said, here's a different color palette, and this is the one I chose for my son's blanket. And so it starts off white. There's a couple of shades of gray, black, red, and then a dark maroon. And because he loves black and red, the Falcons are his favorite NFL team. And so I was thinking about making him one for the year he was born in these colors. I just haven't decided on the pattern and if I want to do daily or do the average weekly. So I have all the supplies. I just haven't figured that out yet. So, okay, so let's talk about, well, before we jump into 2024. So I used Impeccable Yarn by Loops and Threads, which you can find at Michael's. They have a pretty good range of colors. That's why I picked that. And I figured I'd also be able to go grab more if I needed more. I actually used, the most was the 60s, which is this really light pale blue color. Next was the hot pink for 100s and above. Then the pink for 90s, and then 80s. So I think I ended up needing 2 skeins of this blue color, and then everything else I was able to do with 1 skein. But it just kind of depends on what yarn you pick and how much yardage is in each one. And so you kind of just have to like figure that out. And a really good resource for that is Jimmy Beans Wool has a knitting calculator on their website, and I'll link to that as well. And so you can go in there and you can put the type of yarn, the type of project, the size, and so if you're using worsted or sock yarn or DK weight or whatever, and the gauge. And so it will tell you like an average of how much yardage you need. And then you could say, okay, well, I'm using 10 colors. You divide that by 10, and that'll kind of give you an idea of how much yardage you need for each color. And then, like I said, if you kind of look back at the history of where you live, you can kind of get an idea, like you're going to need more for like, let's say what represents 70s. And you can, maybe get 3 balls of that instead of just 1. So, but I would recommend using something that is pretty accessible, that's been around, that's not just a seasonal yarn, so that if halfway through the year you need more, you can still go get more. And like having the same dye lot isn't like a big factor because they're not gonna be sitting next to each other most likely. So being able to just grab more yarn and stuff is not like a big deal. But just try to pick something that you know you'll be able to get more of if you need to. Okay, so 2024. So for 2024, I decided again to use a kind of muted color palette. This is the Basic Stitch by Line Brand Yarn. And so this is actually, they have a post where they talk about temperature blankets. They have a free knitting pattern and crochet pattern on their website, and this is the yarn that they're using. And this is, I kind of based mine on their temperature key. I just took out a couple colors and changed around the range. So here's my temperature key for this year and the colors that are going to represent that. And so I have all of this on a blog post on my website if you want to follow along with what I'm doing this year. And I did the pattern, and then there's a calendar for each month, so you can write down the temperature, and you can use it whether you're doing every day or averaging it out. And so all of this will be a free printable on my website as well. But the pattern I'm using this year, so this is my sunshine blanket that'll be coming out this spring. And I'm going to do mostly stockinette stitch. And then this right here is a slip stitch that that is like a really good transition for between the months. So I'm going to knit, you know, according to, I think I'm also doing six rows this year to represent a week. And so it'll be, you know, 6 rows for each week. And then I'm going to do this stitch during the week that transitions from one month to another. So I'll show you what I've done so far. I've only done 2 weeks because we're sitting at January 20th. So later today or tomorrow I can do the 3rd week, but it's kind of hard to see because I haven't done a lot of this year's. But so just want to show you this because this is like going to be kind of what it looks like. It'll just be a wider gap between these stitches right here. So far, this is where I'm at. And so the first couple weeks have been 50s, and this is the bluestone color. And so I did that stitch down here at the cast on edge just because it helps stockinette stitch not roll as bad. I also did 3 garter stitches on the edge, and that keeps it from rolling this way. And so it'll just mostly be stockinette stitch, and like I said, I'll do that transition slip stitch in between each month. So I will continue to show you guys progress probably once a month on how this is going, and I'm really going to try to keep up with it and do the average every weekend so that I don't get too far behind on that. So okay, so that's everything about knitting or crocheting a temperature blanket. So let's move into cross stitch. So last year I started cross stitch temperature cross stitch, and I did the heart from Fat Quarter Shop, which I'll pop a picture in here so you know what I'm talking about. And I didn't really like it. First of all, I didn't start it until April because it didn't really come onto my radar until then. And so I was kind of far behind. And then I didn't like how it was very difficult to kind of determine where you went from like one day to the next, and then like what represented January, February, March. So then I switched up and did the I don't know what it's called, but I'll pop a picture in this. I bought this from Apricots and Polka Dots. Apricot Polka Dot on Etsy. And so it is a, it's like little triangles. And like I said, I'll pop a picture in here so you can see it. And I started that, and I probably got through the middle of February, March time frame. And I just got so far behind that it was just too overwhelming. And I had so much other stuff going on that I did not continue. And so that just kind of was not a success. But I decided to do this pattern again this year. And I haven't started it yet because I've been kind of hemming and hawing about what I want to do. But But I think it's going to be good. So I'm using I had all the floss for the fat quarter shot pattern, but I kind of weeded a couple colors out so it wasn't so much, and made my own temperature range. And so here's all the colors that I'm using. So it's still really good. It's more of a bright than my knit blanket, which I think is cool. So still have a good range of colors and a rainbow. I just it's just not as many colors as they use. So I'll be keeping you updated on that, and yeah, my progress on that. And like I said, there's millions of patterns out there, maybe not millions, but there's lots of patterns out there for cross stitch temperature charts. So I've seen ones where it's a tree and there's branches, and the branches represent the months, and so all the leaves are the days. I've seen one where there's like shelves and there's flowers, and the petals of the flowers are each day of the week. The Fat Quarter Shop is doing one that's really cute this year, and it's like little cottages. And so there's so many different ideas for a cross stitch temperature stitch, but so you can even make up your own. So yeah, just search around, and like I said, I'm gonna put all the details for the one I'm doing this year, as well as the Fat Quarter Shop one and the one from last year. And yeah, just have fun with it, and you can pick whatever colors and stuff you want. So with either one, whether you're knitting, cross stitch, crochet, just pick what you like. Like, think about the colors you like. Think about you know, what kind of floss you like to use. Think about what kind of yarn you like to use, and just go from there. Like, you can knit one in sock yarn if that's what you really like. Like, you can do different gradients. You can do it in bulky yarn if that's what you like. You just have to kind of sit down and figure out the math, so you know it's not going to be 10 feet long by the time you're done with it. But it's not difficult to do. You just kind of like I said, I'm gonna go over all that in my blog post about this year's and last year's, how you can modify the different patterns. But yeah, just have fun with it, and it's a really cool way to document the year and look back on what your weather and stuff was like. So I hope I have answered some of the questions. If you've never heard of this, please, if you've done one, let me know in the comments. And if there's a pattern that you love to use, or specific yarn, or a pattern for cross stitch, and even, like, I know people make quilts that are temperature quilts. So yeah, let me know what you guys do to document the year, or if you've never heard of it. And yeah, so have fun with it, and I'll be back to show you my progress in future videos. So thanks for watching. Bye.